Live from New Delhi, you're watching DT India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Britain announces sweeping overhaul of policy on asylum seekers. Interior Minister Shabana Mahmood says UK's golden ticket for asylum seekers to end. Clashes erupt during anti-government protests in Mexico. At least 120 people injured. Protesters denounce rising violence, demand justice for a murdered mayor. Australia welcomes US President Trump's tariff rollback on over 200 food products, says Washington's move a good thing for producers. Britain will drastically reduce protections for refugees and end automatic benefits for asylum seekers, the Labour government announced late Saturday under new plans aimed at slashing irregular immigration and countering the hard right. The measures, modelled on Denmark's strict asylum system, were announced as Prime Minister Keir Starmer comes under pressure from surging popularity for the anti-immigrant Reform UK party.
Britain is set to launch the largest overhaul of policy on asylum seekers in modern times, drawing inspiration from Denmark's approach, one of the toughest in Europe and widely criticised by rights groups. The Labour government has been hardening its immigration policies, particularly on illegal small boat crossings from France, as it seeks to stem the surging popularity of the populist Reform UK party, which has driven the immigration agenda and forced Labour to adopt a tougher line. This country has a proud tradition of welcoming those fleeing danger, but our generosity is drawing illegal migrants across the channel. The pace and scale of migration is placing immense pressure on communities. I will end UK's golden ticket for asylum seekers. As part of the changes, the statutory duty to provide support to certain asylum seekers, including housing and weekly allowances, will be revoked. Taxpayer-funded support will be prioritised for those contributing to the UK economy. Length of the refugee status would be cut to 30 months. Presently, those given refugee status have it for 5 years, after which they can apply for indefinite leave to remain in the UK and eventually apply for citizenship. Measures will apply on those asylum seekers who can work but choose not to, and to those who break the law. The Interior Ministry added that these measures will be regularly reviewed and refugees will be forced to return to their home countries once they are deemed safe. Shabana Mahmood is expected to provide further details on Monday about the measures, which the Home Office says are designed to make Britain less attractive to illegal migrants and make it easier to remove them. More than 100 British charities wrote to Mahmood, urging her to end the scapegoating of migrants and performative policies that only cause harm, saying such steps are fueling racism and violence. Polls suggest immigration has overtaken the UK economy as voters' top concern. Asylum claims in Britain are at a record high, with some 111,000 applications made in the year to June 2025, according to official figures. And some 109,343 people claimed asylum in the UK in the year ending March 2025, a 17% rise on the previous year and 6% above the 2002 peak. Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
Mexico witnessed widespread protests against the government of Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum at Zocalo Square. Youth-led protests were rallied under the umbrella title of Gen Z, referring to those aged under 28. Youth protesters threw rocks at the police in front of the government palace during a Gen Z march against President Claudia Sheinbaum. Thousands of people marched through the streets of Mexico to protest against drug violence and security policies of President Sheinbaum's government. Sheinbaum faces criticism due to several high-profile murders, mainly in the state of Michoacan. Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the White House to protest against U.S. President Donald Trump. The protest, which remained peaceful, culminated with a march and demonstration as activists wrapped crime scene tape around the perimeter of the White House property. This is the first of 3 protests. The second will be held on November 17, then the third on November 24th. Australia cautiously welcomed President Donald Trump's rollback of his tariffs on red meat while pressing on the US to eliminate all tariffs on Australian goods. Trump on Friday removed tariffs he had imposed on more than 200 food products amid consumer concerns about rising US grocery prices. Australia in 2024 became the biggest shipper of red meat to the US, offering lower prices and lean cuts that the US lacks. Among the various tariffs Trump has imposed on goods shipped into the US, he calls some of them reciprocal based on the size of the US goods trade deficit with a given country. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said his Labour government would continue to advocate for genuine reciprocal tariffs, which would be zero. Foreign Minister Penny Wong said Canberra would keep advocating their position.
We welcome the lifting of these tariffs. That's a good thing for Australian beef producers. We maintain a clear, consistent position. We do not support tariffs. We believe in being able to access each other's markets. We think that's in the best interests of consumers as well as of producers.
The US military released video it said showed a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel described as being involved in illicit narcotics smuggling in the Caribbean. On its X account, the US Southern Command said the strike had occurred on November 10 at the direction of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. In the black and white video, the boat appears to be traveling at high speed when it bursts into flames and stops. The US strikes against suspected drug vessels in the Caribbean and off the Pacific coasts of Latin America have killed dozens of people who President Donald Trump's administration calls drug trafficking terrorists responsible for thousands of deaths in the United States without providing evidence. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reiterated his firm stance against the establishment of a Palestinian state during a cabinet meeting on Sunday, pushing back against growing pressure from right-wing ministers and recent international signals suggesting a shift in policy.
Our opposition to a Palestinian state in any territory west of the Jordan, this opposition exists, is valid and hasn't changed one bit. I've been rebuffing these attempts for decades, and I'm doing it both against pressure from outside and against pressure from within. So I do not need any affirmations, tweets, or lectures from anyone.
Lebanon has announced its intention to lodge a formal complaint with the United Nations Security Council, accusing Israel of constructing a concrete barrier that allegedly breaches the blue line along their shared southern border. The blue line is a UN-mapped line separating Lebanon from Israel. Israeli forces withdrew to the blue line when they left South Lebanon in 2000. A spokesperson for the UN Secretary General said that the wall has made more than 4,000 square meters of Lebanese territory inaccessible to the local population. In response, an Israeli military spokesperson rejected the allegations, asserting that the wall does not cross the blue line. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced on Sunday that Ukraine will receive gas imports from Greece to help meet its winter energy needs. He also mentioned that Ukraine has secured nearly €2 billion in financing for gas imports through European and Ukrainian banks, backed by European Commission guarantees and support from US partners. The announcement was made ahead of his visit to Greece, from where he is scheduled to travel to France and Spain.
Today we have already prepared an agreement with Greece on gas for Ukraine, which will be announced gas supply route to secure import for the winter as much as possible. We already have agreement in place for financing gas import, and we will cover nearly €2 billion needed for gas import to compensate from the losses in Ukraine's production caused by Russian strike.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky renewed his plea for more air defense systems a day after Russian strikes on Kiev killed 7 people. His latest comments came after Russian missiles struck apartment blocks across the Ukrainian capital Friday. Russia-Ukraine conflict has dragged on for nearly 4 years, with diplomatic efforts to end it are failing, and fears are growing for the country's energy security ahead of a 4th winter of conflict. Ukraine said Russian attacks had killed 4 people in its southern region Saturday, while it had attacked a Russian oil refinery near Moscow. Ukraine has regularly staged missile and drone attacks inside Russia. Ryazan Governor Pavel Malkov said Russian air defenses had shot down 25 Ukrainian drones over the region during the night. Hungary gears up for 2026 parliamentary election, with opposition leader Peter Magyar drawing large crowds in Győr on Saturday as he stepped up his campaign to challenge PM Viktor Orban in the upcoming election. Magyar's centre-right Tiza party leads Fidesz in most polls, boosted by public frustration over a stagnating inflation-hit economy. Accusing Orban of driving Hungary into recession, Magyar said voters were ready for change. Earlier, Orban held his own rally, warning of rising war threats in Europe and promoting tax cuts, wage hikes and housing aid as his government tries to revive weak economic growth. Myanmar was hit by a mild earthquake early Sunday, with tremors recorded by India's National Centre for Seismology. According to the NCS, a 3.5 magnitude earthquake struck Myanmar at a shallow depth of 10 km, increasing the chances of aftershocks. Well, let's see what's happening in the world. In northeast India, Shillong hosted its 5th Cherry Blossom Festival at Ward's Lake, where clouds of pink blossoms lit up the lush green landscape. The festival featured regional music acts, tribute performances and a Japan arena, showcasing origami, cosplay and Japanese pop culture, creating a vibrant celebration that blended local tradition with global flair. Vintage car rally held during Traffic Awareness Month in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, to promote road safety. Traffic police highlighted that the rally connected the younger generation with transportation history. The event fostered interest among citizens in preserving heritage. Chief Minister of Meghalaya, Conrad Sangma, attended the ongoing Cherry Blossom Festival. He reiterated Shillong's unmatched cultural vibrancy, magical ambience of the event and the incredible energy, and highlighted India's concert economy is buzzing and Shillong is its heartbeat. Two-day lifestyle exhibition Nayab organized at Rajbagh, Srinagar to boost young entrepreneurs of Kashmir. The exhibition featured couture, jewelry, fashion, footwear and handbags. The exhibition highlighted theme Say No to Drugs. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. 8th edition of India-France bilateral air exercise Garud 25 begins. 44th India International Trade Fair underway in Delhi. South Africa registers their first win over India in 15 years with a 30-run win. You're watching DD India Live. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. Tens of thousands of people thronged the streets of Amazonian city hosting COP30 talks on Saturday, dancing to thumping speakers in the first large-scale protest at a UN climate summit in years. As the first week of climate negotiations limped to a close with nations deadlocked, indigenous people and activists sang, chanted and rolled a giant beach ball of earth through Belém under a soaring sun. Others held a mock funeral procession for fossil fuels, dressed in black and pretending to be grieving widows as they carried 3 coffins marked with the words coal, oil and gas. It was the first major protest outside the annual climate talks since COP26 4 years ago in Glasgow, as the last 3 gatherings were held in locations with little tolerance for demonstrations: Egypt, the United Arab Emirates and Azerbaijan. Called the Great People's March by organizers, the Belém rally comes at a halfway point of difficult negotiations and follows 2 indigenous-led protests that disrupted proceedings earlier in the week. India criticized developed countries for failing to meet their climate finance obligations. Speaking on behalf of the like-minded developing countries at the 3rd high-level ministerial dialogue on climate finance at COP30 in Brazil's Belém, India said climate finance is a critical enabler of climate action in developing countries. India's negotiator Suman Chandra emphasized the critical need for predictable, transparent financial assistance from developed countries to enable developing nations to meet their nationally determined contributions. India made it clear that the climate transition in the global south is being held back by broken promises. India's remarks highlighted the legal obligations set out by Paris Agreement that developed nations have yet to fulfill. India specifically pointed out inadequacies in the new collective quantified goal revealed at COP29 and called for substantial, consistent financial support from wealthier nations. At this year's climate conference, developing countries have demanded that Article 9.1 be included on the official agenda for formal negotiations. NDCs are national climate plans under the Paris Agreement that set targets to cut emissions and adapt to climate change, guiding global efforts to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And Bangladesh court is set to deliver a verdict on Monday in crimes against humanity trial of ex-PM Sheikh Hasina. Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal 1 will announce its verdict on 17th of November. The 3-judge panel headed by Justice Mohammad Ghulam Mortuza Mozumdar confirmed the verdict date as security was stepped up across Dhaka. Additional forces from the Border Guard Bangladesh, Rapid Action Battalion and the army have been deployed around the tribunal premises. Along with Sheikh Hasina, the tribunal is trying former Home Minister Asaduzaman Khan Kamal and ex-police chief Chaudhry Abdullah Al Mamun, who has since turned state witness. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reviewed the under-construction bullet train station and the high-speed rail corridor in Surat, Gujarat. This ambitious project is considered the foundation of India's modern transportation revolution. PM also interacted with the workforce at the under-construction bullet train station in Surat. Here's a report.
बुलेट ट्रेन है पहचान हमारी, ये उपलब्धि है मोदी जी आपकी और हमारी.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi carried out a detailed review of the progress of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail project in Surat. This ambitious project is considered the foundation of India's modern transportation revolution. The Surat station will serve as a key hub on the entire corridor. Multi-modal connectivity is being created here by integrating metro, bus and local transit systems. Significant progress has been recorded on the 508-kilometer high-speed corridor. Of the 465 kilometer of viaducts, nearly 326 kilometers have been completed. 17 out of 25 river bridges are ready. Track work is progressing rapidly in the Surat-Bilmora section. These milestones highlight India's engineering capabilities and the new strength of mega infrastructure development. Once completed, the journey between Mumbai and Ahmedabad will take just 2 hours. This will give a major boost to trade, tourism, freight movement and regional development. The Prime Minister's inspection is being seen as a reaffirmation of the government's commitment towards the vision of a developed India. During the visit, Prime Minister Modi also interacted with the workforce. The workers said they felt honored to meet him and that his words motivated them to work even better.
आज प्रधानमंत्री सर से हम लोग का मुलाकात हुआ तो सर ने मेनली जो बात किया अपना देश के लिए काम करने के लिए इनकरेजमेंट किया। हम लोगों को बात करके हम लोग तो एक्चुअली बहुत नर्वस थे लेकिन ऐसा बात करके लगा ही नहीं कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर से बात कर रहे हैं, इतना ही घुल मिल के हम लोगों से बात की है।
हमारा ड्रीम है ये बुलेट ट्रेन प्रोजेक्ट और उसमें सर आए मेरे से इंटरेक्शन किया, मेरे से सुरक्षा के बारे में बातचीत की। मोदी जी ने हमको ये भी संदेश दिया कि जैसे कोई भी काम हो, जो भी उसमें काम में गलती हुई है तो हमको वो लिखना है ताकि हम अच्छे से उसको सुधार सके।
आज मेरा ये प्राउड मोमेंट और ड्रीम मोमेंट था प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी से मिलने के लिए और उनके साथ इंटरेक्शन हुआ था। उन्होंने डिज़ाइन और प्लानिंग इम्प्लीमेंटेशन के बारे में पूछा था कि हम लोग कैसे करते हो और कैसे उसके रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करके फ्यूचर प्रोजेक्ट्स के लिए वो काम आएगा कि नहीं। और इस बात का मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा उनके साथ जो इंटरेक्शन हुई थी एंड मैं उनको एक एक्सप्लेनेशन भी दे पाई थी कि हम डिज़ाइन और ये इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कैसे करते हैं और बहुत खुशी हुई है।
Prime Minister's visit to Surat and his inspection of the progress of the bullet train project here is a major milestone in the way India travels and also a major milestone in the dream of a developed India by 2047. In Surat, Gujarat, with camera person Radhakrishnan Tiwari, I'm Akshay Dongre, DD India.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met with Qatar's Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Bil Jassim Al Thani in Doha. Ministers reviewed key aspects of strategic partnership including energy, trade, investment and people-to-people connect. They also exchanged of views on Middle East, West Asia, regional and global developments. The Indian Air Force will participate in the 8th edition of the bilateral air exercise Garud 25 in France from Sunday. The Indian Air Force will conduct this exercise with the French Air and Space Force till 27th of November. The Ministry of Defence said that this exercise aims to refine tactics and procedures in a realistic operational environment. The ministry added that it also provides an opportunity for professional interaction, exchange of operational knowledge and sharing of best practices between the two air forces. During the exercise, the IAF's Su-30 Mark I aircraft will operate alongside the French multi-role fighters in complex simulated air combat scenarios, focusing on air-to-air combat, air defense and joint strike operations. The 11th edition of the India-Sri Lanka joint military exercise Mitra Shakti continued at Foreign Training Node in Belagavi, Karnataka, with 2 days of intensive training. Soldiers from both countries participated in fitness drills, yoga, heli-borne operations and joint live firing exercise to improve combat skills and teamwork. Training included casualty evacuation, road opening procedures, drone operations, survival skills and IED countermeasures. The exercise strengthened mutual cooperation and operational readiness between the two forces. At the 44th India International Trade Fair being held at Bharat Mandapam in Delhi, the Madhya Pradesh Pavilion has become the centre of attraction. The pavilion has been designed according to the fair's theme, Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat, that is One India, Great India. Here, visitors can not only see the Gwalior Fort but also get a glimpse of the Chausat Yogini Temple of Morena. The pavilion showcases the industrial progress of Madhya Pradesh along with exhibits of various products which are also being sold at the stalls. Off-spinner Simon Harmer led South Africa to a thrilling 30-run victory against India inside 3 days of the low-scoring opening test in Kolkata. Harmer claimed 4 wickets for 21 runs as India, chasing 124 for victory, folded for 93 in a remarkable batting meltdown at Eden Gardens. Chasing a small total to win, India were already short of batter as skipper Shubman Gill, who was retired hurt in the first innings, could not bat in the second. To make it worse, Marco Jansen claimed 2 wickets in his first 7 deliveries to leave India reeling. Yashasvi Jaiswal fell for a 4-ball duck while opening partner KL Rahul made 1 before he too perished. Earlier, Temba Bavuma dragged South Africa back into the contest with an innings of tremendous grit. His unbeaten 55 runs was the only 50 by any batter on a minefield of a pitch where inconsistent bounce and spin made life difficult for the shot makers. The second and final test is scheduled in Guwahati from November 22nd. India made a strong start at the Deaflympics, winning 4 medals on the very first day, 1 gold, 2 silver and 1 bronze. In the men's 10-meter air rifle event, Dhanush Srikanth won gold with a world record score of 252.2 points, while Mohammad Vania took silver. In the women's 10-meter air rifle, Mahit Sandhu won silver after scoring 250.5 points, just behind Ukraine's Laikova Violeta. Komal Milind Wagmare added bronze with 228.3 points. The stellar performances shows India's growing strength in shooting at the Deaflympics. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.